Hi, how are you doing? I'm doing great because today I'm here with my favorite books of 2023. I have 15 books to talk about, which feels a bit excessive because most of the booktubers I followed barely managed to get a top 10 this year. I have 15 books because I read quite a lot of 5 stars this year. I in total read 196 books and like quite a big chunk of them were 5 stars. So I am very happy with my reading and I definitely could not narrow it down even more. I tried, but I didn't feel right to remove any of these books off the list, so I didn't. But basically, these are just my favorite books that I read in 2023, not including rereads, and I have a rule of 1 book per series just to keep a series from flooding the gates. But yeah, there we go. These are in the order that I read them in throughout the year, so it's like not necessarily from favorite to least favorite. In a sense, I do typically always mention like my favorite of the year, and I generally have none this year. Like I don't know how to pick one of these 15 as like the standout this year. So let's just gush about them all. Starting off with The Wicked King by Holly Black. I read this entire series at the start of the year and I adored every single book in the series, but as I mentioned, I am only picking one per series, and The Wicked King was easily my favorite within this fantasy series. It's very full of political intrigue and it's constantly characters making moves and it's modding each other and being like 5 steps ahead, and I don't know, I just thought it was such a fun read. I really like my main character, I really like the cast of side characters, and yeah, even though it's the end of the year, I'm still absolutely obsessed with this book. Then Lex Lewis is another sequel. This time it's Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. This is the second book in the These Violent The Light duology, and I really enjoyed the first book, but I didn't love it. But I definitely loved this book so much. Like I thought it was so good. I think the world Chloe Gong has created is so interesting. It delves on a lot of like real history, and I really love how it was crafted throughout the book. I also really love our main characters, especially Juliet. Like she's such a badass and I love her so much. But I also really like Oseman. I also like a cast of side characters a lot. Like I love this cast of side characters so much. The relationship with them is also really good, and it's just a really interesting plot, and I just had such a fantastic time reading this book. Then the next book on my list is Imogen, obviously, by Becky Albertalli. You know, I was a bit nervous going into this book because back when Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda came out, I loved that so much. Like that was my favorite book for a really long time, and I have read every Becky Albertalli book that came out since then. But every time I read one of her books now, I feel like my reading has changed so much that I feel a bit nervous to kind of maybe like her writing didn't grow with me, you know. But this definitely proved that I was wrong. Like honestly, this is my new favorite Becky Albertalli book. I think I just related to this book so much, and generally when it came to Imogen's inner monologue, like so many things she was dealing with, it felt like they were taken from my brain and it felt creepy. Like how did Becky Albertalli do that? Like those are the exact thoughts I had at one point in my life, or I'm currently still having when it comes to certain things. I don't know how she did that, but I related to this book so incredibly much. And then the next on the list is 6 Times We Almost Kissed by Tess Sharpe. This is another one that felt made for me. Yeah, when it comes to the author's note within this book, Tess Sharpe very much says that this is rooted in like fan fiction and a love for fan fiction, and it doesn't like it is a I feel weird here because we have a very big influx lately of, and especially in adult romance, of published fan fiction. This is not that, it does not give that vibes, but there are a lot of like conventions in this that are very often found in fanfic. Like for example, the title 6 Times We Almost Kissed, and then the subtitle And One Time We Did is like a very common way of forming fanfic on AO3. And there's just so many things in here where it comes to like tropes and stuff like that, that it feels very fanfic without actually being fanfic, if that makes sense. I really loved how it was on generally is a love letter to the fanfic release, and I thought it was so well done. I also really loved the 2 main characters and our personal journeys throughout this book. Their romance was everything to me. Like they were so adorable. This is YA. Then another book that I really loved this year is King of Pride by Anna Huang. This is the second book in the Kings of Sin series, and I just ate this up. King of Wrath, the first book in the series, was also on my list last year, and I loved this one even more than King of Wrath. I adored this couple. I thought Kai and Isabella was such a great match, and I loved the way the relationship was developed throughout this book. I loved just kind of like the solace they found into each other. Like when it comes to their personal journeys, their conflicts are very different, their problems are very different, but they still find this way to like connect with each other. amongst that and understand each other, and I really loved it. Then next up, we also have Love Theoretically by Ellie Hazelwood. I read 3 books by Ellie Hazelwood this year. This one, Love on the Brain, and Check and Mate, and all 3 of those are 5 stars and contenders for this list. But I ended up going with Love Theoretically. Not that I necessarily have a rule against more than one book by an author popping up, but I felt like I love this one so much more than the other 2 that I kind of felt weird putting these other 2 on the list as well, if that makes sense, even if I also love them so much. But this I just really liked. Again, this is a fake dating romance in a sense, but I think it does something very different with it, and the setup of it is so different to most fake dating romances you come across, and I really liked it. I also feel like, yeah, Ellie Hazelwood kind of does the same thing over and over again, but I do feel like this one felt a little bit different from the other 2, and I really like that. And just kind of Ellie Hazelwood's writing is just very comforting to me. Like, it feels very fanfic and very easy to read, and I just really like, I love the romance in this one. This is another one, especially when it comes, because this entire book is told in the female main character's perspective, but when it comes to the love interest and like his actions and his doings, it's very obvious that he kind of like sees a female main character in a way that most people don't in her life, and he pushes her to be more herself because she's very much like a people pleaser and always changes who she is to fit around like who the other person she's with wants her to be, and he kind of forces her to be like, is that really you, or is that who like you think the other person wants you to be? And it's just something I really enjoyed. And then another book that I really loved is Happy Place by Emily Henry, which I know this is a rare opinion. Most people didn't really like this one as much. I think this is my second favorite Emily Henry. I loved it. I thought the romance was great. It's a second chance, and I really liked how that was done. I really loved the pairing. It's also kind of fake dating because they're trying to convince them that they don't want their friends to know that they've broken up on this trip that they go on, so it's just kind of fake dating as well. And I thought the situations they kind of got in were so good. I liked the development of the relationship was so good, and I really love it. I really liked our main character that we followed throughout this novel. I thought she was great. I liked her personal journey. I also really loved the friend group. I think that's what the main thing that I loved about this book is that whole side plot, I guess, about the friend group and the different friendship dynamics within it and stuff like that, and I thought all of that was so well executed. And next we have one non-fiction for the list, I Let the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. Who would have thought that in the year of 2023 a John Green novel would be one of my favorite books of the year? Well, technically it's not a novel, it's a non-fiction, but this is one that I've been meaning to check out ever since it was first released, because the way John pitched it back when it came out just sounded so interesting to me. Basically a bunch of essays that are reviews on some of the most ridiculous things in the world, like Mario Kart, and some of the most amazing things, like some of the topics in here are like real like sciencey stuff and like things coming in the world. There's like very serious topics that are reviewed in here, and then like very silly ones and very personal ones, but all of them are basically about humanity and John Green's thoughts on humanity, hence the Anthropocene Review. It's about the course of the humans and how we look at ourselves, and it at the same time gives great critiques as towards the problems we have as a species, as well as also filling you with so much hope for what's to come, because I feel like it's so easy to, when critiquing mankind and how we fuck up the world sometimes, I feel like it's so easy to be like, humans are just terrible people and we do nothing good. But I feel like John Green also does a great job in here, like filling us with hope for humanity. Then next on the list is The Indigo Spell by Richelle Mead. This is the 3rd book in the Bloodline series. If you've been around my channel, you know my journey with the series. I love Vampire Academy, that series, so much. I feel like I read the entire series in 1 year, so only one of those books made it on my top for that year. I loved it so much. I absolutely flew through it. And then I read Bloodlines, the 1st book in this series, the spin-off series, in 2022, because everyone always told me that this series is so much better than Vampire Academy, and I love Vampire Academy so much. I ate it up, so I was very excited to get into Bloodlines, and I wasn't the biggest fan of that first book, and then I kind of dragged my feet on continuing that series until a video made me pick up the 2nd book, and I really enjoyed that, and it ended in a way that made me want to delve into this book, so I did. And I fucking loved it, and I'm still so upset at myself that through circumstances, as in a reading slump and videos I needed to read for, I have not been able to continue on with the series, and I hate myself so much for it. But it's definitely high on the priority list for January. But this was phenomenal. Like I love what it's doing with the series. Then next on the list is You Again by Kate Goldbeck. This is actually one that I absolutely did not expect to ever make this list. Like, of course, every single time I go into a book, I'm hoping to enjoy it. I've never expected this book to, like, I don't know, I never expected to love it so much. I think it was such a good book. It's a, like, a romance, but it also very much focuses on two main characters, like, own personal journeys. Because when, okay, so they first meet like years before like the actual start of the story of this book, and they don't like it, and over the years they kind of cross paths a couple of times, and like then those interactions never go that well, and then one time they're both at their lowest of low, and they meet again and they find solace within each other, and they form a friendship that eventually like blossoms into a relationship. And I just really loved how it was done. Like, the dynamic between the two of them was just amazing. The slow development of them as first as friends and then as a couple is amazing. I love how they kind of like found like a common place with each other, and how they were both kind of a light in each other's life when there's so much darkness. And I also love how these characters go through some shit before they get together. They get the happy ending. Like, they really have to work on themselves a lot before we get to, like, you know, the happy end, if that makes sense. Next we have, to no one's surprise, The Chalice of the Gods by Riordan. This is the new Percy Jackson novel, and I love it so much. I did a full spoilery vlog about it. You know all my thoughts. You know everything there is to say about this book. It's such a delightful story. It feels very cozy fantasy because even though there are like high stakes moments, we are not dealing with the end of the world, and it feels very nostalgic, very comforting, and these characters are amazing. And I feel like this book just reads like a love letter to the friendship between Percy, Annabeth, and Grover, like the three of them, and also to the romance between Percy and Annabeth. And I loved it so much. Then another sequel you should have expected on this list is Heartstopper Volume 5 by Alice Oseman. I absolutely adore this series, so I was very highly anticipating this volume. I think it was my most anticipated book of the year, and I absolutely ended up loving it. I think it does a great job at continuing the story. I love the discussions within here as they kind of delving more into Charlie's recovery, like him kind of like having to pick up his life again and like finding confidence within himself again to do certain things, and then Nick having to kind of start thinking about his future and his plans after school, basically going to uni, what he wants to study, stuff like that. And also the very possible potential that they will have to go long distance soon. And I thought it was so well done, and I read this in like less than an hour, and I hate myself for it still because it's so good. It was over within like in the blink of an eye. Then next up we have Pride and Prejudice and Pittsburgh by Rachael Lippincott. This just felt made for me. Like, I know when I went into this, it sounded right up my alley, sound perfectly for me, and I was so interested in it, especially because it is by Rachael Lippincott, who has made this list before. So I was really excited for this release, and absolutely did not let me down. I had such a fun time reading this. I think this is my favorite romance of the year. Like, I guess it's YA, but when it comes to just the pure connection these two had with each other, despite facing such different struggles, they managed to find so much solace within each other and to immediately relate to one another and understand one another. I thought was just so incredibly done, and I think this is definitely easily my favorite romance of the year. Then next for the list we have The Time I Got Drunk and Yeeted a Love Potion and a Werewolf by Kimberly Lemming. This just purely made the list because it was so much fun. Like, I don't think I've had this much fun reading a book in years. Like, genuinely, I laughed so much while reading this. I thought the romance was absolutely adorable. I really loved our female main character. I thought she was such a strong badass character, but also really funny. And then our male main character was just a puppy dog. Like, he's a werewolf and he's scary as a werewolf, but when he's a human, he's a puppy dog. He's so cute and adorable, and I love it. They also have some steamy moments if that's something you're looking for, but I just also thought the emotional connection between them was just so good. And it starts out very unsolved, but I do feel like Kimberly Lemming does a great job throughout the book, kind of like developing their romance into something more. Then we have arrived at the final book for this video, which is Babel by Kuang. I don't know why I was so intimidated to read this book for so long, because it genuinely is so incredible, and like the hype is well deserved. I thought this was so incredibly well written. Like, I loved the writing in this so much. I thought it was so good. Like, I understand for some people find it dense, but like personally, like the topics it talks about, I was really interested in, so I didn't really feel it as that dense. I also thought it was kind of funny at times, which is something I wasn't really expecting because I've never seen people talk about that. I love the characters in this one, and like the friendships and like the relationship, like the relationship between the characters was so interesting, and I really loved it. I feel like that was my favorite part of this book. But when it comes to like the fantasy world and like the discussions about language and the obvious themes about like colonialism and racism and stuff like that, I thought all of those things were really well done and really well executed, and I really fucking love this book. That is absolutely everything I have for you today. Thank you for letting me gush about some of my favorite books this year, and I'd love to know about your favorite books as well. Maybe I'd get some recommendations out of there for the new year, and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye!
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? I should have